Hi, everyone. Welcome to Professionals on the Grind. And this segment is Strategy Talk. And today's topic is networking. Networking is so important, so vital to your professional growth. And as someone who has been able to network, my position requires me to network. I have a little bit of advice to give. This is not the end all be all advice for you, but just know that everything that I am sharing today is something that is going to be beneficial to you. And hopefully it works. Please feel free to cherry pick whatever you feel comfortable with, or cherry pick any strategy that you think is going to help you advance in your career. So I'm going to go ahead and start with LinkedIn. I'm not beating a dead horse, but I will say I do have strategic advice. I use LinkedIn in a very strategic capacity, and I do garner a lot of traction and activity, and I'm able to build a very strong reputation online based on what I'm posting. So to start, take a headshot. Please make sure you take a headshot. There's so much AI, and your cameras on your cell phone are so high quality. Make sure that you take the time to take a picture. Make sure somebody's taking a picture of you. Don't post a selfie. Believe it or not, your picture on LinkedIn or your picture on Outlook is getting kind of like viewed at, right? Somebody's pulling you, like Googling you or looking you up. They're going to squint and try to see who you are. So just know it is worth having a picture where you're professional, wear a button up shirt. And like I said, you can DIY headshots. So Canva has a free trial, and with all the AI now, you can probably TikTok your way into the video on how to create an AI professional headshot, and please feel free to use it. I will confess, I did do a Canva. It wasn't AI because I didn't add anything. I just took a really nice picture. I removed the background and I put one of those general gray backgrounds that you would get at a headshot or a photography place. And that's what I have as my headshot. So feel free to steal that and use it. Trust me, it is very important. The second thing I will advise you, please post. Start to post on LinkedIn. There are many benefits to posting. And I want to sort of dispel any hesitation from anyone. So if you're someone who maybe you think your job isn't worth posting, like let's say I used to be an admin assistant. I would never in a million years think to post as an admin assistant. Like, oh, I just wouldn't, right? But don't think of yourself as an admin assistant. Think of yourself as an employee within your organization. So if your organization is reputable, you're just in a part of any organization. Most organizations host events. Most organizations are creating initiative and strategy. Guess what? Even as the admin assistant, you're contributing to that mission. You're contributing to that goal. So if you attend a gala, you attend a seminar that they're hosting or that they're participating in, take pictures of yourself at the event and talk about the event and talk about what the organization is doing within that space. And that is a post. That is genuinely a post. It does not matter what title you have. Post about it because one, you're amplifying the mission of your organization, the impact of your organization, and you're also increasing your presence online. And that is so important within the professional setting. So start getting into the habits of posting. If you're someone who isn't active at work and you don't want to do anything at work, start posting about whatever volunteer work you're doing. And if you're not volunteering, go volunteer. I say that because you want to ensure that people see who you are for what you are, right? So if you're someone who is, altruistic and you want to give back, this is a space to share, hey, I just did 100 hours at XYZ. And it's something to start to develop your presence, something to start to develop your, vernacular within that field and that space. It's going to be very helpful. Another great reason to post is as you're thinking of that network and as you start to add people on LinkedIn, your feed will constantly be on their feed, or like your post will be on their feed, which is such a mild touch point where people will have you top of mind. If you're someone that posts every week or every month, even if they're just glancing and scrolling through their feed, they will, Diana, you know, I don't know, Gilberto, whatever the name is, whatever your name is, that will resonate with them. So keep that in mind as it will help because As someone who likes to and prefers to connect with someone on LinkedIn versus a text message, when you're connecting on LinkedIn, again, it is a very soft touch point or very subliminal sort of interaction with someone because they're like, oh, yeah, I remember I met them at this event. Maybe I don't talk to them, but it's great to see what they're doing. And if you take someone's phone number, you can take someone's phone number and it's going to be in their Rolodex or in their contacts, and you might not ever engage them. You might not ever connect with them again. They might not ever remember your name, who you are, and it might be too much. How many contacts do you have in your phone? Are you really going to remember whose phone number you have at every single moment and where you connected with them? Versus if you're on LinkedIn, you really don't know when that connection is going to help you. Even when you leave a position, you don't know what your colleagues are going to transition into and become. You don't know what activities, programs, people that you meet are going to eventually conduct and participate in until many, many years later. And at one point, it might be beneficial within the next 4 years or 5 years when you see, oh, this person's working on this kind of program and we're currently working on this program. They make a really good fit. You can easily message them and say, hey, I met you at the lobby at this event and I see you're working on this. Such an easy, fast touch point. Again, very, very low effort with high reward. Again, you're on top of someone's mind. I get a lot of people who think they know me, right? Because I'm always posting and they're like, oh, yeah, I think I'm following on LinkedIn. You know, your organization is doing great work. Again, there is very positive impact on what posting. And you don't have to post every week. You don't have to post every month. You can post once a quarter, but just make sure that you're developing that habit, especially if you're someone who wants to continue to move up. Because once employers start looking at your social media accounts, which they do, LinkedIn is the top one that they search for, especially if it's a high profile position that you're posting or that you are, that you're applying for. High profile positions, trust me, you're going to be required to post on social media. And LinkedIn is what you're getting posted. So if they already see what the quality of your work is or what the quality of your amplification is, it's going to be a pro. Another great thing for the networking within LinkedIn is that communication that you're allowed to do with people who you might not ever have a chance to meet because, depending on your city, it's an hour away or you would never run into them, right? Unless you're working for the same company. So I'm going to give two pathways. One is you working and finding a job or a network within your field, and someone who would like to jump into a completely different industry or sector. So if you're someone who is a, let's say, a finance assistant, right? And you want to be a finance director or you want to be a CPA one day, you can easily start, or you should start making a list of the companies you'd like to work for, positions that you would like to have. And based off of this list, you start looking at one, making sure that you're following the company, two, that you're following the people within that company that hold your position, and you're able to then message them. And this is so beneficial because you have access to individuals who are at a point in their career. Because you're thinking, you have to think big, right? They want to give back. They want to give that guidance, and they work just as hard to get to that position. So many of the directors that I have encountered, they want to give those resources. They want to have those conversations with young professionals. So keep that in mind. Don't ever be afraid to message someone. And it's a really great way to start finding mentors. And you'll be surprised that these people at high levels are able to then boost you up. And even if you're someone who isn't ready to talk to someone at a high level and you just want to talk to more peers, look at the companies that you would like to work for and look at the positions that maybe are parallel to yours or maybe are one higher grade than yours. Then you have the capacity to then look at the employees who are currently in those roles and message them and say, hey, would you like to grab coffee? I'm trying to expand my network. We're in the same field, in the same industry. Most people who are in a corporate position want to also expand their networks. There's a lot of benefits to doing that. So a lot of people will be open to even just scheduling a Zoom or a Teams meeting or grab coffee, right? Because stranger danger. I'm just kidding. Right? So keep that in mind. It's really great. And if anyone messages me, I'm happy to take a call. If anyone messages me, like I will go out and, meet them for coffee, especially if I've met them out and we just had a very low contact, or very fast contact in person, and they message me again. I'm happy to give that guidance, right? The second avenue to using this strategically is when you're ready to jump sectors. There's so many people in the nonprofit sector who want to jump into the private sector. There's people in the private sector who want to jump into the nonprofit sector, and then same thing goes for the public sector, right? So if you're someone that is in a nonprofit sector and you're ready to jump into the private sector, this is where it gets a little tricky because you need to know what position you want, you need to know what companies you want, and you need to really assess how drastically different the sectors are, right? So, one, think of the organizations that you'd like to apply for and think of the dream job that you want within this sector. And if it is a complete, like if you're a finance director in a nonprofit, it's not going to be a difficult jump to the private sector. It's the same position. But if you are a program manager to, I don't know, cleaning the beaches, and you're trying to jump into like cloud sales, for example, two very, very different fields, but you want to make the jump, right? So, of course, this is about networking. So, I'm not going to talk into what programmatic and courses and classes and seminars you need to attend to do that. But when you want to start that initial reach to have conversations with people who are in your dream field, think of the companies, think of the people, and start to message them. This is one going to help you really see, hey, you know what? When I applied to this position, this was my resume. When I applied to this position, this is what really helped me stand out from the hundreds of people who are competing for these jobs, right? Like if somebody tells you, oh, yeah, I got this position because my uncle ran it, well, then you kind of know a little bit that's, a little bit of nepotism that's going to help you there in the company. Or, yeah, I was able to show them these 5 different programs, and you're not wasting your time going back to school. You can take a 8-month course to, figure out your life. Another great thing too is you're able to then have that network within that field. So once you are ready, you have the background, you took the courses, you have the experience, now you have the network, and these people are going to have you in mind, and they're going to say, hey, this job just opened up, you should apply, I'll vouch for you. Or that's usually how it goes, if we're being quite honest. Or you could say, hey, I'm going to apply for this position, can I use you as a reference? Especially if there's someone within that field already. Just know that is very valuable. Even if you're not applying to their organization, you're applying to another organization. If it's an executive at another position within that same field, it's going to be very beneficial. I get so many people who reach out, people I know, who reach out and ask me to be a reference. And I say yes, because I'm in a position where my position is of value, I would say. And it really helps benefit. And again, because I'm having conversations, I know what someone's work ethic is, I know what someone's career strategy is. It makes sense to give that letter of recommendation. It makes sense to, be a reference for those individuals. So just keep in mind that when you're starting to research and expand your network within your social media platforms, LinkedIn is the easiest way to reach out to these executives, to these people in these positions, in your dream jobs, in your dream companies. So one, make your profile, make sure you're active, make sure you make your groupings, right? So write down the top 10 companies that you would ever want to work for and start to research within those top 10 companies 3 to 4 employees that you want to start connecting. And within those 3 to 4 employees, make sure that you message at least 2 to 3. You can do all 4, but then it would be really tedious. It might be, especially if you still have a full-time job. Make sure that you're also being realistic with yourself, because it's like applying to a job, right? Like you're maintaining the relationships, you're maintaining the conversation, and you have to try to find time within your schedule to now also meet up with individuals when it best suits their schedule as well. So just keep that in mind and make sure you take a lot of notes. Like whenever I talk to someone that I'm networking with, especially a mentor, just know I'm taking notes. Take sure I'm taking notes. And another thing I will add, especially when you're thinking about LinkedIn, is ensure that you are adding people that are also in the field or positions that you want to be in, because you could make a friend. You could make several friends. And now that they work for this company, you'd be surprised how many jobs, positions, like you just hear about, and you keep people in mind. Like when people tell me I'm looking for a job, I have a list of people that I send jobs to that I see, because I know that that's something they're actively looking for, and I don't mind doing it. And you'll definitely find people who are like that as well. So keep that in mind. That is your LinkedIn update. And I might, throw in a few more things from LinkedIn. Another great thing is attending events. One, let me tell you, if you want to network, and this is for high level networking, this is for someone who's at their midpoint in their career and someone at their start. Ensure that you are attending strategic events, and this is more so for professionals. So, what are strategic events? Chamber events, EDC events, seminars, conferences. So, an easy start is subscribing to your local chamber events. That's completely free. You don't need a membership. So something I like to do is I'm subscribed. I can see what events are going on. And some of the events are like 20, $30. That is an investment. Please, please, please go to those events. For the ones that are 125, see if your company is willing to go to an event. See if your company is a part of the chamber. And then if they are, they usually get 2 tickets for free. And of course, I'm sure that the execs or so whoever holds it is going to be attending. But if you vocalize, hey, I'd like to be considered, as someone who could attend this event, they'll probably keep you in the rotations because not everyone wants to go to every single event. So I'll give a great example. I recently went to an event that's Japan House hosted here in LA, and the event had a really, really fabulous panel. It was Deloitte, it was Dodgers, it was it was like a really high bank, US bank, their parent company. I forgot what their parent company name is, but it was a really high level profile of panelists, right? So one, even just meeting the panelist is a really great opportunity, but two, everyone within the room, like think about who the panelist is and who is going to be attracted to this panel. It's going to be a lot of employees because they want to suck up to their bosses. It's going to be a lot of people who want to hear the conversation, and it's going to be professionals or whoever subscribes to the Japan House or that organization that's hosting it. Think about the events that you've attended that belong to that organization and what kind of caliber individuals attend that. That's also going to be very helpful. Another great thing is you're also going to find people who also just want to get in the door with those individuals. And sometimes meeting those individuals who are driven enough to attend an event just to meet, the CEO of Deloitte or, the CEO of an organization, they're driven. Why not? Why would you not want to be their friend, right? There's someone who is passionate, they're strategizing, their, attendance to this event as well. So just know that it's worth it, as well as when you see these invitations and it's just a seminar, just know that it's very, very, very small window of opportunity for you to network with someone. So you have to attend an event early. I recommend 40 minutes early because you need time to park, find a location, and then you're the first to get there so you can sit with people, right? I like to attend events that say network or reception. So anytime there's a network reception time, like there's like appetizers or, drinks, just know that is a allocated time that this organization is putting for you to network with individuals. So don't be shy, invite people to sit at your table. You invite yourself to go sit at someone's table and say, hey, can I join you? I don't have anywhere to sit. People are nice. They're not going to say no. And if they do say they're full, don't cry. Suck it up and just go to the next table and ask them if you can sit there. I like going to events alone because sometimes, unless you know your colleague or your friends, they might not feel comfortable networking. They might not feel comfortable holding a conversation with a stranger, or they might make you feel like you're being a bad friend, colleague, because you left them alone to go talk to a dozen people that you're trying to network with, right? So know who you're inviting and don't be afraid to go alone. I'm not afraid to go alone to events because you're able to then also sort of just make your way and it doesn't feel heavy. I don't think I'm explaining myself well here, but just know that there's a lot of benefits with attending an event alone or stag and ensuring that you're able to, squeeze into the chair. If there's only one chair in the entire row open, guess what? You get to sit there and now you're sitting with 2 strangers. But again, when you're strategically attending events that are specifically intended to network, ensure that you are, networking. That's what you should be doing when you're attending these events. Like, of course, I like to go and I genuinely enjoy a lot of the panel discussions, but know the crowd and know what your objective is. If your position is someone that, you work in sales, I meet a lot of people in sales at these events. And I also meet a lot of people who just want to get to know other people, or just individuals, or well read individuals, or knowledgeable individuals who just really want to absorb different perspectives and information. So all positive networks, whether it's for something that you want to develop within yourself as a professional, or you just want to expand that network for whatever reason, especially if you're someone who is in sales and you're like, well, I need to expand my clients, right? Because networking is exactly that as well. You're ensuring that what kind of event you're going to, and you're not wasting your time. Like, take your business cards, take take your Facebook, or I mean, sorry, your LinkedIn QR code, right? Take your, take your digital business card, right? So it is so important. And again, all the advice I'm giving is also applicable to anyone at a high level position, anyone at a mid range, or anyone at a low, or whatever sector you find yourself in, because networking is so important. Again, it doesn't just pertain to someone who's trying to move up within their career. If you're someone who needs to meet different quotas, different metrics based off of individuals, based off of program expansions, based off of mergers, you need to ensure that you're meeting people in the right rooms. So again, these chamber events, you can be very selective onto what you're doing and who you are trying to network with. So there's a lot of benefits. Ensure that you are subscribed to the EDCs as well as the economic development. I think most, I'm just speaking for the US, I think most cities have an economic development when they host a lot of events. I think they're a little more pricier, but again, if it is an investment for your future, give yourself a budget. Give yourself maybe a $300 budget a year so that you can attend, an event that's $125. It's in your budget. Is it worth it? Yes. Okay, perfect. Make sure you go. But I will say this, because this was the guidance that was given to me by a mentor, because we were strategizing, okay, how am I going to develop XYZ for a position? And they're like, well, this event for an EDC, it's like a gala. If you're there with a company, you're a sponsor. And if you're there alone, they usually know it's a sales person, or they have an objective to be in that room to meet with the various guests within that room. So keep that in mind when you read an event. And if you know someone within that organization, touch base with them to see, hey, would it be weird if I attend alone? And if it does seem weird, see if you can convince a colleague, or maybe go with a friend and say, oh, we're very interested in what this organization does. We're here to support, something along those lines, where you can sort of play it off a bit. So that's my advice there. Another great place to meet people is at conferences, right? So again, if you're someone that's trying to jump sector, or someone just trying to expand your knowledge, or trying to expand your network with your just peers, you want to meet more nonprofit people, you want to meet more, I keep using finance, you want to meet using more accountants, right? You want to meet more CPAs, you want to meet more, I don't know, whatever your career position is. Ensure that you are also attending events that are going to attract other peers, right? Because it is so nice to be able to have conversations with people who are in your position, at your current level, experiencing the same thing that you're experiencing, or as driven as you. And it really helps to expand your circle, because the saying is true, you are who you hang out with, right? So the if your friends are driven, you're constantly going to be strategizing and talking about the next step. You're constantly going to be helping each other, like, hey, here's another position, here's another position. Or, if you're having a really bad day because your boss did XYZ, or your colleague did XYZ, you'll be able to have those conversations with your colleagues, or your friends, your peers, who are also experiencing this exact scenario, or they've experienced it. So they're able to give you that guidance. So networking within your space, within your position, within your industry, within your age is so important. Just know. So keep that in mind. Another great thing about networking while you're out in the field is you start to learn how to have conversations and what people within your industry or people within your dream positions like to talk about. Another aspect to networking is being well versed in one, your position, two, your industry, and overall, and I'm so sorry, those are my dogs, overall worldly um, topics, right? And even local topics, right? So if you're starting to network, especially if it's in person network, you're starting to ask people out for coffee, knowing how to have a natural flow of conversation with individuals is so important. Something I like to do is listen to NPR in the morning. They're a very neutral organization. They're going to give you news very straightforward, clear, and concise to the point. So just know that when you're starting to go into your commute, you're learning about what's happening in Qatar. You're learning about the laws and propositions that are being passed in your state. You're learning about, the local baseball team that just won, or things like that that are really important. That most people in high level positions are also doing. They're watching the news. They're reading the newspaper. If you, instead of scrolling, a habit that I started getting into is I'm scrolling the LA Times. I pay for the LA Times subscription, and even if you're just reading the headlines, you select things that people within your space, your network group, your dream job, etc., are interested in, or within your field that is going to make you a subject matter expert. Make sure you're actually reading those articles, and make sure you're reading the articles that are also very important to everyone around you, right? So gas prices went up, you want to read that article because everyone is going to talk about that, okay? So keep that in mind as you start to develop your composure and your strategy as you're out, because there's nothing more awkward than someone who isn't able to keep a conversation, especially if you're the one that requested it. If you're like, hey, let's go out for coffee, and it's like, hey, how's it going? Did you hear about, the Boston Red Sox coach? And you're just like, and it was major national news. Don't get caught in that blank space. And if you are caught, it's like, no, actually I didn't, but I'm a big Dodger fan, so I did hear about the Otani bobblehead. Like, I'm not gonna listen to the Red Sox, right? Like, come on, right? So there's ways to pivot, but you need to know how to strategically absorb information so that it helps you as you're having conversations with different individuals. And being able to have conversations with a range of individuals is so important. So if your peers and your colleagues are on TikTok doing trends, I'm not saying you have to do it, but don't be a snob. Oh, I'm not on TikTok, or oh, I don't know this. Like, I think being aware of things is important because it gives you versatility within different age ranges. And, Gen Z are now in the workforce, millennials are in the workforce, Gen X are in the workforce. Make sure that you're able to have conversations with every single individual in that room. Make sure you're able to be compassionate as you're having these conversations as well. So that's something as well. Once you start developing your strategy to network, once you are out in the field, being a conversationalist is so important because it's really going to help someone remember who you are. Oh, this person is really charming. This person is really well read. This person has such a vast, vocabulary. They're so articulate. Ensure that you are remembered for a specific reason and you're able to hold that conversation. And again, as you're networking, start to work on how charming you are. Make sure that you're able to, ensure that you're able to guide someone into a great conversation, and ensure that your objective is also being amplified within the conversation. So please ignore my dog. But as you're out having conversations with people and ensuring that you are meeting with these high level individuals, ensure. Okay, so I want to get into the advice you're being given on the internet, and I'll be able to tell you, just a general yes or no whether it works. So I typed into ChatGPT advice to network your way into your next job/career, but this advice is also quite general for someone who's interested in expanding their network within their field, as someone who's in sales, someone who's, constantly looking to prospect their next partner. Again, all this information is very relevant to that. So clarify your career goals, which is, of course, something that we discussed. Define your objectives, understand what type of job and career you want next. This clarity will help you identify the right people to connect with. Exactly. So, again, my next elevated advice to that is identify 10 companies that you'd like to work for, and then start to look at the individuals who are in the positions that you want and you see yourself in, whether it's the individual within the next position or the individual within your dream job that are 2 to 3 positions higher than that, and start to add them and message them. Research your target industry. Very applicable. Target industry or target career and profession, because some people might want to work within the nonprofit space or the public sector for the rest of their lives. Just knowing what department or what area you'd like to focus on, that is something that's really going to help you. Like, for example, if you're someone who's in the public sector and you only want to work within parks and recs, then those are the individuals that you're trying to expand your network within. That's also your knowledge, right? It's get to know the key players, companies, and trends in the industry you're interested in. So by trends, being well versed with what's currently happening. If you're someone in education and you see that there's propositions that are affecting that, being in the know of what's occurring within the unions if you're a school teacher, knowing what the average salary is within your field, just various talking points that are really going to help you strategize within what people are interested in and what people are going to have conversations in, right? So the second advice you're getting from ChatGPT is leverage your existing network, which is very true. If you're someone in sales, that's going to be very hard. Like if you're a car salesman and, not all of your friends are going to want to buy the car within your company when not everyone is ready to have a new car, but it doesn't hurt, say, hey, we're currently giving a discount. That's what it is. Another great avenue, again, this is for someone that has an existing contact. Like when you make friends in college, especially if you're someone in college or even in your master's program, this is something that you're able to then, those are your direct peers, right? All of my friends in my undergrad are all doing very different things. We're all in the public sector or the nonprofit space, but still very vastly different. One thing I will say to this specific advice, and something that I'd also like to add to networking, is ensure that you are thinking about a master's program, especially if you're someone that's trying to pivot into a completely different sector, and as someone who is trying to expand themselves within their current field or industry. I say this because when you're someone, I went to school for public administration. I wanted to expand my network within that. So being in person is so important. I actually would recommend being in person over getting an online, unless you're someone like me where I can naturally network, so not having that network isn't affecting me. But I will say there are a lot of benefits to being in person because you're able to develop those relationships at such a different level, and you're expanding your relationship for an entire 2 years with over 40 people who work all throughout your city, all throughout your state, maybe even some are out of state or planning to do different positions. So know that that is something that you can immediately do, and why it's also beneficial as someone who also wanted to expand into communications, not because I wanted to field in communication, but it was something that would have enhanced myself as an individual. It's going to expand my network with people who are already great at communicating. They went to school for it, they're in a position for it, they're currently looking to grow even more. So when I need help and guidance within writing a script or something, I have that network of people who are able to help and assist with that. So keep that in mind. The next thing is use LinkedIn. Look at that. Let's see what advice I have. Update your profile to reflect your current goals and activity. Engage with your network by liking, commenting, and sharing relevant content. I don't know about that. So what I will say is do not put open to employment. Like unless you're an extremely high level executive with a very strong reputation, you have a very strong network, and it's mainly because companies are after you and they want that opportunity to work with you. Don't do it because it looks bad, and you don't know if your company really likes you, so they might not necessarily take a keen liking to you openly broadcasting that you're open to work, right? So keep that in mind. Of course, like and comment, but liking and comment are very different. I think liking, probably commenting is fine. I mean, don't overthink it. Sharing relevant content, I think if it's applicable to what you're doing, what your programmatic goals are, and being very neutral in what you're doing. So be careful when you're sharing your opinion on certain things, because you don't know how it is going to affect you. And I hate the fact that I have to say that, but you really do not. So just sharing relevant content is your content that you're posting for yourself. If you're resharing things, make sure that it's to amplify your current organization. If they're hosting a gala and saying, hey, this is our annual gala, I'm so sorry, she's going to start snoring. This is our annual gala. Ensure that, consider attending, give a little explanation on what it is. Then that's something that you could do. So if you're going to reshare what your organization is, or what your humanitarian extracurricular activities are, right? So if you're volunteering and it's something that you're passionate about, you're sitting on a board, that's what you're resharing. Because again, you need to be very specific and intentional with what you're posting. Don't just post something that you think it's fun, because again, it's not Facebook, it's not Instagram. Be intentional. So 3, attend industry events. Okay, so far so good with these. I'm so sorry with this advice. I'm drinking coffee at like 6:54. So conferences and seminars, again, attend events related to your desired industry. Again, if it's the current industry that you're in, or you're trying to jump industries, attend those events. Be strategic, but I would also say be intentional in how it is going to help benefit you into being an even better individual, right? So networking meetups, look for local networking meetups where you can meet professionals in your field. I personally haven't mastered this. I know that there's various Facebook groups. I know that there's other organizations that help you meet other people. If you're able to successfully do this, please email me, message me, let me know how that goes, because that's something that is interesting, right? So if you're interested in doing that, or if you're an individual who would even go out of your way of creating your own Facebook group for top CPAs in the San Bernardino County, then feel free to do that as well, right? Advice number 4, join professional associations. That is also something that is very important. So there's industry groups. Many industries have professional associations. You often have to pay for those, though. So that is one of the main reasons why it is so difficult for people. Like if you're at the peak and you're at a high level position, of course, you're going to join these industry groups. Oftentimes your companies will join these industry groups. I would say if you have the money to spare, I would also say join local boards for nonprofits, join boards for organizations or charities that will allow you to also network with people who are also professionals who want to give back, right? So that's also a great way to really diversify who you are as an individual and diversify your network within different ranges of fields and industries. So again, if you're willing to make that investment, make it. Again, maybe give yourself a budget if you're someone starting off early on in your career, or maybe you have student loans and you can't, you don't have money to spare. Give a budget. I mean, some industry groups like Professional Association of Santa Barbara might be $300. Like it might be worth not buying those shoes, or maybe cancel your gym membership and just go on runs, or find different places to give and get, right? So you have to give in order to get this, and sometimes you have to make those sacrifices, right? Online communities. Again, online communities, good luck, right? Participate in relevant online forums, LinkedIn groups, and other professional networks. I haven't done vast research in participating in relevant online forums, but please teach their own. Heck, I might even take this advice and look into it this year as well to see what that looks like. LinkedIn groups, make sure you're following those, you join them. Ensure that you're able to be active and say, hey, would anyone like to meet up for coffee? Again, if you're joining these online groups, be intentional. Don't just stay online. Meet up with someone in person. That just takes a relationship to such a different level, and it's such a different outreach within your network, right? With whatever you're looking to extract from it. So request informational interviews. So asking for insights and follow up after the meeting. So if you are networking, you are reaching out to the CPA of, I don't know, P&G, and you're able to get that insight, right? You reach out to them, ask them companies, you're basically interviewing them like, hey, what was the journey of your career? What really benefited you? How did you get to this position? People will give that to you, right? It shows that you're interested, and helps build your relationship without directly asking for a job. So it does. I would say it really does, especially because people like to ask that. Like a lot of people don't get asked, like, how did you get to your position? Oftentimes, right? Sometimes people are scared, or like their direct team is too scared to ask those questions sometimes. So follow up after interviews, send a thank you note. That is something that someone told me once. Like I was getting a mentorship through one of my positions, and they were like, hey, you're like, you want to send a thank you email. And I was like, okay, I'll do that. Right. So after every phone call, I said thank you. So that goes a really long way, especially when sometimes people are getting asked to do 1,020 things and they don't even get a thank you. So that's something I could also be better at doing. So ensure that you're sending those follow-up thank yous are really important. So requesting informational interviews is the same thing as reaching out to someone for coffee. So as you're developing your outreach and you are booking those coffee dates with people in positions that you want, ensure that you are actually ready for those and you're asking the questions that you want to know. Like I'm very inquisitive, so I'm going to ask 1,020 questions. Like, hey, do you know how to negotiate a salary within this field? How did you, get to this position? Did you have a network? Where did someone give you the job? Like that's one of my favorite questions to ask, because based off of someone's hesitation to answer it and saying, no, I honestly did this by myself, I didn't have anyone on the inside help me, it gives you a realistic expectation of what to expect on the organization. But it also tells you, like, okay, I might know that I genuinely do need to actually know someone in this organization in order to get into it. So instead of like being super upset that you don't have that network, is figure out how you're going to get that network into that organization. Especially if you're just someone that wants to, you're driven. Everyone here listening to this, you're driven, okay? So, advice number 6, volunteer freelance. That's also really great advice. Offer your skills volunteering, and taking on freelance projects can help you build connections and showcase your skills. I 1000% agree, but I think it is very subjective to what kind of freelance work you're doing. Like, if you know how to write a grant because you took a few classes and you can be a grant writer to organizations, fantastic. But how does that translate to the private sector? Because they don't need grants, right? So, when you're offering your skill sets to freelance, like internships are only really offered to college students. So, how are you doing that? So, as someone who's just looking at this, volunteering, one great, again, you're sitting on a board to an organization. Sometimes you have to pay to sit on these charitable boards. So keep that in mind when you're volunteering. You might also be able to volunteer as, these organizations, let's say private sector, for example, they do cleanups and they do community outreach events, right? So look at what their philanthropic goals are or expectations are. And you say, oh, okay, they're going to host a beach cleanup. They need volunteers. Go register and attend. Or if they're sponsoring a marathon, and all of their employees are often the ones who are volunteering, volunteer for that marathon. Also run, and then just stop at every stop and say, oh, so you work at, you work for Disney? Here's my business card in your fanny pack, right? So create that opportunity for yourself as you're immersing out. And then again, so if you're doing a freelance project, the only thing that I could see being easy to freelance is like social media, or I don't know how you would freelance. I mean, I guess you're like a consultant, but again, it's very specific. So I would actually approach this based off of the volunteering for an organization versus if you really don't have those freelance skills, like it's very hard to translate. And a company has to be willing to even employ you as a freelance. So that's very specific to private sector and very specific to certain positions that require that additional help. Gaining experience is particularly useful if you're trying to break into a new industry. So I take gaining experience is very difficult because you need to quit your job and get into another job within that experience. So how are you gaining experience, right? So again, I think having a mentor is where it's going to be really beneficial for this, because let's say you're someone who wants to get into the tech industry and you have zero knowledge. Of course, you're going to have to head back into school, get a trade or a 6-month course. Or you can find someone that's in that field and is willing to donate an hour of their time to teach you how to code or teach you how to do something within that field. And so that's really the only way to gain that experience. And then again, if you're lucky enough to be able to quit your job and segue into another position that is within that field, then power to you, you're the best. Because again, gaining experience is such a necessary tool. So number 7 is be consistent and genuine. So it's nurture relationship. Networking is about building long-term relationships, not just asking for favors. Stay in touch with your contact and offer help when you can. So this is very specific as well. So I wouldn't say there's a negative. Long networking is about building a long-term relationship. So yes and no. So if you're able to touch base with people, and oftentimes people who are really busy in high level positions, they're so busy, you might not get a touch point until once a year. I have a mentor who is like, just ask for the time in the books. And sometimes I don't always meet with her because she's really busy, or I am now in a position where I'm also really busy. I still want her guidance, but I'm so busy, right? And sometimes text messages they're a little bit easier, but what can you do, right? So keep that in mind. But yes, you definitely want to at least say Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, Happy Birthday, or checking in. Hey, did you feel that earthquake? Or hey, I saw this is happening. Are you okay? Those check-ins, and then maybe accomplishments like, hey, I was able to get this XYZ. Thank you so much. Your advice really helped. Right? There's only so much repetitive connections you can make, or like, hey, I'm in your town, let's meet up for coffee. And then you don't always have to talk about like your professional work. Like also say like, oh my gosh, I know you have a kid, how's your kid doing? Or I know you're a runner, how was the marathon, right? So keep that in mind. And when this is again for a mentorship or people who are like helping you with colleagues and I say colleagues not in a way that you work with them, but just people who are in your same industry. If you end up being friends with them, go on hikes, go on walks, go on coffee dates, go to brunch, like whatever that looks like. And you can do that with mentors or individuals like that. If you're networking to expand your client base, then it's keeping them in mind whenever your company or organization is hosting events. So if you're working on sales and your organization hosts a, annual, I don't know, golfing tournament, you're inviting every single network that you want to intentionally, make that sales for or with, and you're inviting them every year, even if they don't attend. And, every time try to make a different touch point, whether it's that email invitation, that text message, or that call. Make sure that those touch points are consistent and applicable to what they're doing, right? So if you're someone who sells, I don't know, pens, right? It's like it's a pen conference, and you're trying to ensure that you at least get that FaceTime as well. So nurture those relationships. Again, sales is very different, right? Not every single company is going to have you or be helpful in like hosting an event, but making those touch points. It's like, hey, how is the pen? Is the pen still working after 6 months? I hope so. And if so, we have new colors, right? So keep that in mind. Be authentic. People are more likely to help if they feel you're genuine and they have a genuine connection with you. Be yourself and show genuine interest in others. So it's how you come off, right? So I actually recommend you do this. Record yourself in a conversation and see how you are. Of course, every person is individual. You have a professional setting, you have a very grounded setting, and then you have who you are when you get off the clock, right? So when you're authentic, it goes back to knowing what your personal mission statement is. Again, I cannot just stress this enough. Knowing who you are, what you want, and where you want to go, that is your personal mission statement to be ready. Again, I was caught so off guard when I was able to book that coffee, and I was very complacent in the position that I was in because I just got the position. So again, I didn't have a need to then think about my next step because I just got here. Let me breathe, right? But it's needed. It's authentic. Like if your story and everyone knows that you want to give back to the community, everyone knows that you want to be the best finance director, you want to be the best CPA, you want to be the best CEO. That is your personality. That is who you are, and people will always gravitate to that and know how to help you, right? And knowing how to again be genuine in others, like, oh, so how are you doing? How's your life? Or if you're bad with memory, which sometimes I am, although I've come a long way, memory's great. Really knowing like, oh, I know my relationship with this individual, she's currently working on a project. Next time I connect with her. It's like, hey, how's your project going, right? What is that interest? Like, oh, you remembered this about me? Oh my goodness, it makes you feel really nice, right? Or, you had a meeting and they're like, oh, I went on vacation. Next time you meet them, how was your vacation, right? So what is that authentic relationship and that authentic connection that you're making, right? Don't just pretend you're interested in someone, actually be interested in someone. So the next thing is use social media strategically. Personal branding, share content that reflects your personality, interests, and expertise. Again, everything I shared on LinkedIn, I think I gave more detail. So that would be, again, just rewind this and, go back to that. So engage with industry leaders. Again, that's who you're messaging and who you're able to then connect with based off of your interests. So that was 8, 9. Stay organized, track your contacts, keep your record of all of the people that you've spoken to, what you discuss, and when to follow up. Again, this is very specific also to sales, also to job prospecting, or just network expansion. So if you're someone who needs to track it, Excel, Google Sheets, they all have really easy formats to then go in and track everything. Something that I actually have, and it's I have an agenda, and I staple, business cards into this agenda, and I take notes, and I put the agenda. It's the Moleskine, and actually, let me grab it. Okay, so this is my network Moleskine, and so I'll just open it really fast. So let me open it to something that isn't currently occupied. So obviously, it's the month, it's the day, and I like this calendar year. It's just a regular notebook. I'll staple. You can staple a day of, but sometimes you meet more than one individual. So I'm stapling all their business cards, and then I'm writing notes sometimes. It's like what's applicable. You keep that in there, and this works with anyone in sales, anyone that's looking for program expansion, anyone that's just, again, looking to expand your network. And it's something to look good, to look through at the end of the year and say, like, oh yeah, I met this person, let me follow up. Or, taking a glance of all the individuals. Again, you don't know how this is going to be relevant, and it's a book that you can also keep until the end of the year. And life hack, Moleskine always gives a discount after the year, like a month into the year. So don't buy it at full price. Wait, and then just buy the yearly calendar, and it's really going to help you a lot. So just keep that in mind. Okay, great. So let's see what else. So set goals, right? So again, setting goals to what your relationship is, right? So if it's someone that's saying, oh yeah, let's meet every week, put that in the calendar, put it in the books. Setting goals to determine what are your objectives, right? If you're trying to make those networks, to make those expanded sales, then you need to ensure that those touch points pertain to what your strategy is. And again, it's knowing how to read that network that you're going into. Not everyone is going to buy a pen every 6 months. Not everyone is going to buy a car every year, but knowing how to engage and make those touch points with the network, and knowing what group you're going into to, again, develop that strategy and develop that connection. I'm so sorry. My dog in the back is acting crazy. It's so important. So again, prepare your elevator pitch. Look at that. Craft your message. This advice is actually really good. So highly recommend ChatGPT. So craft your message, have a concise and compelling pitch ready to explain who you are, what you do, and what you're looking for, which is 1000% true. Again, it's reiterating what is your mission statement, what can you do to really describe yourself, and what you're looking for in the relationship. Like sometimes it's really great to just say, I'm looking for a mentor. I need someone that's going to help guide me. I'm very green in my relationship with my peers. I'm green in my career placement. I'm green in, and then it's a practice. The more comfortable you are with your pitch, the more natural it comes across. And it's true. And I wouldn't say practice, I would say genuine. Like, is that genuinely want to do? Like, I want to help people. I came from the inner city. Like, I came from South Central LA. I want to ensure that everything I do, every position I take, is intentional, giving back to the community. I also want to ensure that I am in positions that are giving back within various projects. These are my passion points. I love to help Latino communities, first generation professionals. I love to help within, or I like to work within organizations that have really great programmatic goals to help expand and aid their communities, or whatever your mission statement is. Ensure that you're able to say it and really develop it. And again, I want to be the best finance director. I want to work for Deloitte, right? Like whatever your objective is, it's like, okay, well, let's help you get to Deloitte, right? Get your foot in the door. So networking is so important. And again, this advice that you get from AI, you have so many resources. Please, please, please ensure that you are using everything that is at your fingertips, because as someone who sometimes you don't have that network within your peers, within your friends, within your family, don't be afraid to Google it. Don't be afraid to ask AI, right? Or don't be afraid to TikTok or YouTube, because this is the best place to really ensure that you are, you know, at a starting point for where you want to go and what you're trying to accomplish. And again, networking for your career is going to be the best thing, especially if you're making those networks with professionals at high levels or companies that you want to work at. It's going to benefit you just having someone who is already in the organization, someone who can already give you an insider trade or insider knowledge on what to do and how to strategize to get into an organization. Like I know how to get into my organization and I know how to move up within my organization, or at least I think I do. And that's the advice I give people when they are looking for guidance and they need help and they've asked me because they saw my journey and they want to know how they can get to that journey as well. Another great point of to networking within sales or positions that really require you to be out connecting and talking and engaging with people is ensuring that you're being strategic to what you are, right? If you're a car salesman, it's people who are within the car, but would it benefit you to make a social media to ensure people know that you're the best car salesman or you're the person to contact to connect with when they're in town, they're looking for that service? It might be. So consider how social media is going to help you network if you're in that specific sales division, or again, developing your vernacular and conversational skills. If you're someone who's looking to network, ensure that you are able to talk to every single individual. And you're in sales, you're selling to everyone. When you are in a position where you need to prospect, you are prospecting with intentionality and you're prospecting with individuals who have positions who you might need to talk about football. You might need to talk about Otani. You might need to talk about, King Taco. It's just ensure that you're able to diversify your conversation and ensure that you're able to know when to hit those one liners to crack a joke. Make sure you're able to smile and charm someone when they're looking to be charmed and smiled, right? Or know when you're offering someone dinner or when you're offering someone coffee, or being conscious of their time and what they're expecting, right? So work on your conversational skills and work on who you are and the attention that you're giving with you're giving people. So again, these are all skill sets. Networking has helped me really expand myself when I'm looking for mentors to talk to, when I'm looking for problems to solve, and I don't have direct peers where it's like, well, okay, who in my network can I have this conversation to help me strategize my way to point A or strategize my way out of this mental funk, right? Because sometimes that is what your network is for as well, or connecting with peers that have also experienced the same struggles and issues that you have. So ensure that you're able to also make those connections with people who are going to help you with your day to day and manage what your current workload is, because again, there's no better feeling than being able to have a conversation with someone who knows what it was like to get yelled at by your boss for opening an envelope, or knowing what it's like to have to network your way into something, and they just might have different key strategies to do it, and you're like, oh, I actually didn't think about that, let me actually do that, right? So networking is so vital, again, to your professional development, to a potential next job, to being able to alleviate some of the conversations that you need to have in order to discuss, this is what I'm going through and this is the guidance that I need. And it's so beneficial. Ensure that you're networking with everyone and everyone under the sun. And again, don't be afraid also, just random plug, network with people outside of your industry. Like sometimes it is just so nice to learn what people are doing in unions in LAUSD. It's nice to know what people are doing in the private sector, because they have a company credit card, right? And their life is so fabulous. So just know that network, that really a network can help you. in more ways than one. So ensure you're networking, ensure that you're connecting with people, and ensure that you never stop developing yourself as that strong professional individual that you are. I hope this conversation was fruitful, and let me know if you have any other tidbits within networking or any other conversations that you'd like to go over. This was Professionals on the Grind Strategy Talk, and I will see you in the next episode. Thank you so much.